Hello, welcome to Investor Insights. I'm Chloe Cho. Amid growing views that global financial markets are due for a pullback, how much will they be set back by the fresh slide in oil prices and the rise in government bond yields? Here's a look at our headlines.
As global financial markets pause in search for new drivers, Goldman Sachs sees a speed bump that sends the S&P 500 and the Stoxx 600 tumbling some 10% in the next 3 months. Amid signs of stabilization in China's latest PMIs, Fidelity says Chinese equities are likely to play catch-up for the rest of the year, especially in the third quarter. And Trading Talent's Asia Pacific comes down to the wire as top 4 battle it out to be crowned the region's top trader.
All right, welcome to Trading Talent's Asia Pacific. Based on all of our judging criteria, the winner is...
Who will be crowned the winner? Let's get insights from Catherine Young, Investment Director, Fidelity International. Joseph in Calcaterra, Asia Pacific Economist, HSBC. Kay Van Peterson, Global Macro Strategist, Saxo Bank Group. And Eric Liu, Head of Research, Vonda Research.
Much has been said about how fragile and short-lived defensive rallies tend to be. How critical are the signs coming out of Japan, and where can we find value out here in Asia? Let's pick up on these topics with Catherine Young, Investment Director of Fidelity International, and Joseph in Calcaterra, HSBC's Asia Pacific Economist. Welcome.
Morning.
So we're seeing outside falls in both dollar yen and Japanese equities. As more we find out the details about Japan's stimulus package, is this a no-brainer? Was it a given, since much of it was in line with expectations?
Well, it seems to have disappointed many investors, but the whole Japanese situation really does reflect what we're seeing across asset classes, and that is there is an abundance of liquidity. This liquidity is trying to find a home, hence why the bull strategy versus the bear strategy, they're all working in tandem.
Your house view is that Japan will probably load up on more ETF purchases, but probably won't let the helicopters take off in their September meeting. If that is the case, how much flatter can JGB yields go? And where is your dollar yen target then?
We think that means they're going to consistently kind of come short of what markets are expecting. So in terms of dollar yen, we actually see the dollar falling to 95. And again, for yields, they can only go in one direction as the BOJ struggles to kind of meet investor expectations.
We just heard the RBA cutting rates. Which other central banks do you think will offer looser policy?
So in North Asia, we see China, Taiwan, and Korea all delivering more easing. And then in ASEAN, basically most economies, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and in India and South Asia are all probably going to be delivering easing. Ultimately, monetary policy has limits. So ideally, we'd like to see more fiscal policy where possible. But all we really see is Korea and Japan delivering with some type of supplementary budget this summer.
Yeah, so you've got, from your investment perspective, a whole silver platter of countries that are coming up with looser policy. Where would you be a buyer?
China, for the second half of the year. So because China's still been out of favor versus many other markets, it's likely that the market will play catch up. And importantly, when we look at China, some of the heavy rains we saw in May and June actually saw a lot of the infrastructure projects being delayed. So you're going to see a pickup in infrastructure projects. You're also going to probably see the NPLs, so non-performing loans, the debt restructuring situation, be less aggressive or less severe, which will ease investors' concerns about the whole growth story in China.
How do you play the markets? China has been an underperformer for much of the year. Post-Brexit, it actually outperformed most markets. But right now, we've got fresh concerns about tighter regulation and the renminbi, IPOs. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It does go on and on. If we look at, for example, the things that one needs to monitor closely, it would be confidence in the private sector, so CapEx. The consumer base still spending, the property cycle has done very well, but you're likely to see tighter policy. But don't forget, property is the backbone of the economy. And then finally, state-owned enterprise consolidation, corporate governance transparency, whether President Xi Jinping can implement all the policies he's been talking about. But at the end of the day, they have the tool set market in terms of easing, policy maneuvering. We're still seeing a number of interesting companies, and it is an emerging market. And from a global perspective, only about 2% of MSCI, when we look at revenue, is exposed to UK and Europe. So you could actually see more Chinese companies acquire offshore companies at an attractive price.
Chinese PMIs show some signs of stability. How much can they be affected by external factors?
But a lot of this ultimately boils down to inventory restocking, and we're not really seeing a boost in external demand based on export data and new export components of the PMIs. There's some room in China for growth precisely from infrastructure like you were mentioning, and it's the great thing with China is that the government has sufficient policy tools such as increasing the fiscal deficit, such as a sufficient scope for monetary easing to offset some of these external headwinds. So that's why, in a sense, China can be a bit more resilient and why we've seen growth hold up.
And Catherine, before we go, you talk about this catch-up play in China in the third quarter. Percentage terms, how much of a bounce are you looking at?
Well, it's likely to at least come back to, it's very much one of the worst performing markets, so make up for that initial loss. But again, potentially it's all stock specifics. One should look for, identify companies that can still grow, that has good market share. For example, some of the big players, the big internet players who have, whether it's Tencent or Alibaba, yield so important, and some Chinese companies pay some very, very attractive yield.
All right, great stuff, guys. And coming up next, the season finale of Trading Talents Asia Pacific. Find out who will be crowned the grand prize winner of Trading Talents Asia Pacific. Stay tuned.
Get ready for Trading Talents Asia Pacific. More than 2,000 trading enthusiasts applied, but only 20 emerged as finalists after 4 qualifying rounds in Asia Pacific's first televised trading challenge.
Congratulations for making it to the top 20.
6 weeks of finals began with top 20 trading on live accounts with a $10,000 balance with access to thousands of instruments from Forex, options, CFDs to futures.
I was working for a bank earlier on in a treasury, and now we are working here in a hedge fund.
I'm Rahul Bharadia. I grew up in India, did most of my schooling in India, and masters from London. In Singapore, I'd been heading a trading department for a hedge fund, specifically into currency segments. Trading is all I know. That's the first job I had, and that's the job I'm doing even now.
If he wins, Rahul plans to take a holiday while using the rest to build up his portfolio.
I'm Richard Goh. This year I'm 46 years old. I'm born in Singapore and I have 7 siblings in my family. Yeah, I started work when I was 22 years old, and when I started joining the financial industry in 1996. I wanted to join this trading competition firstly because I wanted to test myself.
Richard has proven to be a skillful trader who focuses on technicals and fundamentals by keeping his risk and drawdown in check. He says that if he wins, the money will go to his wife.
Currently working in a Chinese bank, so dealing in the renminbi business. So I'm from Malaysia, working in Singapore about 9 years. I'm married with 1 daughter. So my daughter is about 4 years old. So for this competition, trying to win some money for her.
Boon Sang is a seasoned options trader who traded his way to the top 4 while behaving like a long-term investor. He prefers to find a correlation between A50 ETFs and HSCI and likes to exercise discipline when buying options.
Using options, right? There's a possibility that you can minimize your loss, but I think the upside profit is unlimited.
My name is Glenn, and I'm from an engineering background, and I'm a Singaporean. I decided to join the competition to pit my skills against other traders. If I win the competition, I'll reinvest the money.
A self-described swing trader who prefers structural breakout trades with a lower time frame, Glenn sprinted his way into top 4 after a sluggish start. Glenn Tong, Boon Sang, and Richard Goh have each been awarded the weekly winner prize of $2,000, while Rahul Baradia has done it twice based on the judging criteria of net portfolio value, max drawdown, judges' scores, and clout score. As the final verdict awaits, who will be named Asia Pacific's top trading talent? Up for grabs, the grand prize of $30,000 and another $10,000 for the runner-up.
Your ego tends to be your biggest enemy, and that's also why you find people who have a more systematic, programming, black box strategy tend to cover that ground well.
It's imperative that you have a framework where you harness those emotions.
You have the edge or the right information on an individual stock or sort of a smaller idea. A global force can come along and knock that right through.
Risk management is one of the most important things in being a successful investor.
Trading Talents Asia Pacific. There you have it, your top four. Welcome, Rahul Baradia, Boon Sang, Richard Goh, and Glenn Tong. We'll talk about your trading strategies. You guys probably had a nerve-wracking week in light of all the key risk events that happened. And our judges, Kay Van Peterson, Global Macro Strategist of Saxo Bank Group, and Eric Liu, Head of Research at Vonda Research. Rahul, I noticed that there was a spike in your number of trades. Was that a tactical shift, or would you call it a reflection of your nerves?
It was a tactical shift because I used to get into the trade with a small amount, small notional, and the moment I am more confident, then I put in more money. Otherwise, I'll just square that off. So the number of trades is because I bifurcate 100,000 to 25,000 each.
And Boon Sang, I couldn't help but notice that in every single FX spot, you had an option attached to it. You called you the smooth options guy. So was that helpful as part of your risk management strategy?
When I add on the FX, actually, it's some sort of like taking profit. Yeah. So when the market reverse again, so I can reverse the position against. So make the option to become more profitable.
And Richard, you're all about support and resistance. Did that help you in the final sprint?
Yeah, it did help me in my technical analysis. Yeah. So far, I quite use it pretty often. When to go in and when to get out. It's quite accurate.
Glenn, you're all about the Elliott wave. You like the Fibonacci, RSI, and so forth. This week, you were focusing on the Elliott wave analysis. Did that get you the sprint that you wanted at the end?
So far so good, but for the past week, not as good because I don't have a good setup yet.
And let's get some analysis from our judges. Give us an analysis of what their returns actually meant on an annualized basis.
On actual notional from the starting capital where they each had 10,000, I believe the range is from something like +8 to about +41 or something like that. And if you annualize that, you're talking up to 300, from about 380, 390 to about 1,500%. Wow. just to give the context, if they kept on doing what they're doing on an annualized kind of basis. And actually, if you're in the hedge fund space right now, and if you're flat for the year, you're actually doing quite well. Right? So, I mean, that just kind of goes to show, kudos to them. They've made it this far, and it's been a really tough market.
Yeah, the fact that some of them actually had on an annualized basis up to, 1,500%?
Yeah.
That is just absolutely phenomenal.
Well, I thought one of the really fun parts about judging was the different styles. You guys were all completely different types of traders. And it really goes to show that there are different ways to trade. There's no sort of established school of success. And so some of you would hold trades for multiple days. Some of you would hold trades for minutes.
Rahul, you've had to actually shift your mindset to that of a day trader. If the trading challenge was longer than 6 weeks, let's say, 6 months, would that have benefited you?
If the drawdown was not on a daily basis but on a weekly basis, then I'm sure the results would have been different.
And Boon Sang, what's interesting is that your win rate was very high, 69%, yet returns were below 10%. With the benefit of hindsight, how would you have tweaked this?
Because of this competition was end on Friday, so I cannot buy the longer tenor options. So if the tenor can be longer, I may consider buying longer tenor, so may have some profit taking on some of the swing.
And Richard, you don't even trade much, and yet you seem to be generating returns.
If I think the market is going up, so I hold a long position. So from there, I will see a difference, how far it can go.
Glenn, you drew down close to 30% halfway through, and then all of a sudden you came roaring back. What did you do?
I want to break away from the rest, but it didn't work out. So I saw an opportunity on my Nikkei and yen setup, and with the news that came in, I got into the trade.
This conventional notion that it's good to have low volume, low drawdown. Actually, you can throw this notion out the door as long as you get your wins right. And even if you have small losses, it's okay. Is that the lesson learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think it also depends on what the screening criteria is. I've been at job interviews where they say your high Sharpe ratio is not going to buy me your Bentley, right? It's all about the nominal amount. They couldn't care really what it is as long as it's a plus and it's a big number, right? And you have the case of where the engineer had the highest volatility, with the biggest drawdown and the biggest week out. At the same time, Boon Seng had the lowest vol of the final four. And both of those could get very different mixed reactions.
That Brexit Friday alone, I think your returns were at 25%. Where did you stand on the BOJ? Did you see disappointment coming?
Going by the history in last few months, BOJ has disappointed the market. So we were expecting a few bazookas out of them, but they failed, and probably I was not expecting it to go down. I was expecting it to go to 110.
And Boon Seng, we noticed an interesting trade that you have put on. Was it dollar Sing? U.S. dollar against the Sing dollar? It almost seemed like you had set yourself up against the U.S. GDP data. How did that go?
The one is a bet on the competitions.
On the competition.
I was trying to use all my profit to bet on this. Yeah, so I built out about 600,000 options.
Richard, given that you had such a small number of trades, what do you think was a trade that probably got you into top two, if you are among the top two?
I think it's along the dollar yen. That's where I see dollar going to rebound soon.
And Glenn, you tend to have high drawdowns, but at the same time, very high returns as well. Do you think that winning streak kept on going in your final sprint?
The final sprint was not as good as it should be, but then I didn't see any good quality setup. That's why I keep it small.
Let's reveal the score for final tally 1. When we come back, we are going to reveal part 2 of your scores. But first, take a listen to what our judges have to say.
It's very close. No one really has this in the bag, right? And someone's misfortune as we get to the final countdown could benefit someone else in essence. So you have to keep that in mind. But being a betting man, I'd probably put my money on Raul.
I'd probably go for Glenn Tong. I think he's chosen quite a risky strategy, but he's been right in there riding the Japanese market. And if I had to guess over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks what market was going to be up, I would put my money on Japan.
I think if it just came down to pure strategy, Boon Seng I thought showed the most poise. His trading was the most disciplined. He stuck with the instruments that he knew well. He traded them well, incredibly well, and had a relatively low volatility book as well. So I thought his performance was the most impressive.
Got to bet on Richard at this point. He's been the most consistent performer week to week throughout the competition. He's demonstrated an ability to handle risk weekly while maintaining minimum drawdowns and achieve superior investment performance.
All right, it is now the moment of truth. When your names are called, please step forward. We will be revealing the bottom 2. All right, Kay? Okay. Boon Seng and Rahul. Okay.
Gentlemen, as a trader myself, I'd like to commend you guys on how far you've come. I think a key thing that's made this very different from a lot of other trading competitions globally is this is based on real money, which kept our CEO up every night. But luckily for him, you guys didn't lose any money and you're here. Rahul, Poonseng. Rahul, sorry to say, you're going to be in suspense for a bit longer. You're in the top 2. Congratulations. As I said, you're a real winner in all of this, so congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, and we've got Glenn and Richard.
First of all, I want to congratulate both of you. You both had a phenomenal run at this. Richard, I think you along with Poonseng were probably the best kind of risk managers of the entire bunch. Glenn, you swung for the fences a lot, and you had a great trade on oil, which made up a large part of your performance. So, moving on to the next round is Glenn. Congratulations.
And I'd like to invite Adam Reynolds, CEO, Asia Pacific of Saxo Bank Group.
Thank you very much, Chloe.
So, Adam, you've been with us since the very first day. We have the casting call. You've seen these traders evolve. Give us your impressions.
Just watching the journey that all of our finalists have been through and all the contestants, I think it's quite amazing that all 4 finalists made money in 4 weeks and lost money in 2 weeks. I think it's also amazing that they became tactical traders as they got closer to the end. So in the last week, actually all 4 finalists lost money, but very small amounts because they were all concerned and watching what each other was doing.
What are the qualities of becoming the region's top trading talent? After all, you yourself have made a killing doing this, right?
If I had made a killing, maybe I'd be sitting with a lot more money on the beach at the moment. No, but I really think the thing about trading, it's all about discipline and patience. You've obviously got to be able to read the markets well, but discipline is probably the most important thing.
All right, now shall we find out who the winner is?
Okay, so based on all of our judging criteria, the winner of the first Asia Pacific Trading Talents is, congratulations, Rahul Bhatia. Yeah, the Trading Talents trophy. Awesome. Glenn, great job. Shame you couldn't come first, but awesome job anyway. Well done. Congratulations.
Our winner, Rahul Bhatia, and Glenn Kong, runner-up. Fantastic job. Congratulations. And that is our season finale for Trading Talents Asia Pacific. From all of us here, I'm Chloe Cho. Thank you so much for all your support and company. Have a fantastic journey ahead.